Playbook by CEO East Africa Magazine in association with FCCA Uganda and Deloitte.
Hello, good people. Hello, viewers. Hello, listeners. Hello, readers, depending on how you're consuming the CFO Playbook, the show by the CEO East Africa Magazine that brings you the journey to financial leadership by digging into the minds of the CFOs, the people who make it happen. The guys who once in a while used to disturb us with our vouchers, but I'm sure that was way before you rose up to higher things. And I like to also think of this show as the non-finance show with finance people. Because other than trying to get into the mind of the finance people, we're also trying to get the non-finance people out there to understand how you guys think, how you do your things, so they're able to appreciate you, they're able to work with you better, and sometimes not to misunderstand you. Because sometimes hard decisions have to be made and the buck stops with you people. With me here today is Susan Shereni. She's the head of finance and admin. I hope I got that right, at the Infectious Disease Institute. I must say the first question is non-finance. That name, Infectious Disease Institute, kind of freaks me out. What do you guys do?
We're into research, healthcare.
Okay.
So just to declare, I'm not infectious as much as I work there.
Okay.
So we do train health workers. We strengthen health systems across the country. And now we are spreading across Africa because our vision has Africa within it.
Okay.
So we work closely with ministry. And we're the ones in the back end trying to ensure that you're healthy, you're not broken down with all these emerging infections.
Okay. Now that I'm sure you will not infect me with anything apart from your smile, you can now tell us about yourself. You know, I'm sure I only know maybe the name and where you work, but I'm sure there's a lot more about you that you'd love the world to know about you.
You pretty much covered what I'd love the world to know about me, but I'd just like to share a little detail that people don't know, that I'm a Christian, born again, and that's my core. A mother of 4. I love to ride horses, which is a bit not common with ladies in Uganda, but I love that. And I guess that's what I would like to share.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's something interesting. You rarely, I've interviewed quite a couple of people, and I think I've only met 2 people who have introduced themselves as Christians in their intro line. And actually one of them is again in the finance profession, the country manager of Deloitte. He also introduced himself as a Christian. So I'm just wondering, Christian and finance, which one came first? Or is it a prerequisite to be a finance person to be a Christian first? Or did you actually become a Christian, a good Christian, in preparation for the finance profession?
That's a funny one. No. I was raised in a Christian home, and so I gave my life to Christ at the age of 8. So at that time, I didn't even know I was going to step into finance. Everyone at home was talking about medicine, a doctor, medicine, when you get to med school. And so for me, it comes fast, yeah.
Did you have any life to give at that time? I mean, 8, there is not much to give to Jesus. What moved you in that direction?
I attended a crusade, a Bonki Reinhard crusade at the airstrip, Kolo airstrip, and he did share a very simple sermon, and you're created to serve God, and all you have to do is to ask him to come and live in your heart. I was like, okay, so how do I do that? And said, repeat this after me. And I said a simple prayer, and thereafter I went for discipleship, yeah.
I know I repeated that a couple of times at the university swimming pool in Makere and at KPC somewhere where I won't tell you the reasons why took me to KPC, but here I am and I'm still non-practicing Christian. But here we go. And speaking of the finance career, at what point did you make up your mind that you want to be in finance, or how did you get here? And in line with that, looking back, what would you say are some of your key highlights in the profession?
My journey to finance was quite interesting. At the time in high school, I thought I was going to maybe go into medicine because the pressure from family was everyone has to do med because we had quite a number of doctors. And then a group of boys are discussing and they say, oh, there's this ACCA course that is quite challenging. People don't complete it and we don't think anyone can do it. So I took it on as a challenge and read about it. And then I walked to an institution called FCCA at the time. And that was my journey to finance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were they Christian boys?
No, no.
Okay. Interesting. And actually, there's something you mentioned around the impact or the role that our family background has on some of the careers that we choose. Myself, I ended up in the seminary because there were like 6 of my brothers had been through the same seminary. And unfortunately, none of them became a priest, and neither did I. So, looking back now, as a parent, do you think it's a good idea, or like how do you advise parents, or basically how far should they go in terms of trying to influence what their children should be? Of course, bear in mind that they have the best interests of the children at heart, but how far do you think they should go?
I think every parent does observe and see the strengths of each child, and I think it's their role to guide them into that path. So I'll just use my practical example. None of my children is interested in accounting or finance. They want IT. There's a scientist, there's an artist, and they say finance is not something they're interested in. So I picked that up early enough, and so my job is to nurture them into that space and link them to professionals in that space to guide them. So I don't think we should twist our children's hands as it was attempted on me some time back. Yeah, because you end up with someone who is doing it for you, not for the passion, and at the end of it all, it's not a win-win. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, why are you being a bad finance model to the kids? Why are they all running away from the profession that raised them?
So they find IT or information systems quite interesting because there's a lot of gadgets exposure right now, so they are able to do so much. And they find that quite interesting. Their dad is in that space. And so accounting with numbers all the time, coming back late, and they're like, I don't think that is fun. So for our finance colleagues out there, I think we should balance our life and work. Yeah.
Okay. Or at least, since you're the faces of the profession in the home, make it look like it's nice. And okay, and looking back at your career, where it all started, would you say it has all been nice? Because usually, especially for the young audiences, when they see somebody has become CFO, they tend to get a picture of all things are nice. They've been rosy, and how has it been? Any challenges? Any highlights? And even right up to where you are, I'm sure there's quite a few challenges every once in a while that come your way.
There are always challenges.
Okay.
I think I've had more failures than successes, I should say. Starting out in this career, I did fall quite a bit, and I struggled with patience. I love people who make quick decisions and, fast. And so when you get into a workplace, you realize that there's everyone from all walks of life. And so I struggled with that, and it affected my change management, which did not cultivate a good environment for my team at the time. So I was quick to realize that, and I got mentorship for that. So it's not all rosy. Even in school, there are challenges, so I wouldn't say it was one of those easy ones. And then also, I struggled with emotional intelligence, that person who just tell you it is black or white. And then you realize, okay, you should have packaged it different, and you'd get a different reaction. So those were my major struggles, and I'm still learning. I'm not there yet, but it's a journey. Yeah.
So you don't like people who bang tables? Or just bang them on the edges, just slightly?
You can bang tables,
Okay.
but I learned that the tone and the choice of words do impact the outcome quite a bit. I can tell you, hi, and you get different responses.
Yes.
So.
But I guess in the profession, I mean, it is either a loss or a profit, and there will either be a dividend or no dividend, and it is either 0 or 2, or. So how do you, and again from your experience perspective, and I'm sure there must be other people who are struggling with that kind of thing. So how do you communicate precisely, but at the same time being able to, to take care of the emotions and all the other, variables of the people involved in this conversation?
You don't have to compromise. You have to be firm as you communicate the facts. But one thing I know is that if you come out as disrespectful, you're not going to get the good results or the response that you expect from the different stakeholders. You have to be consistent. If it's a no, we're not doing this for this reason, give reasons why you're saying it's a no, and try to see it from the other person's view, and then that will help them come to your side. If we have a deficit, I'll tell you, yes, we have a deficit because of this, but not say, you are the reason we have a deficit. Because to get to that is joint effort, right? So I think the way you deliver the message, and I've learned this over time, you can deliver the same message and have different reactions, but still have a consistent position that speaks to integrity in your financials.
Okay. And speaking of the journey, when you're starting out in the profession or on anything, there's a mindset that you bring to the table. But then now, looking back where you are right now and knowing what you know, are there things that you thought about how your journey would go, how you'd find the profession, and things that have turned out not to be what they are? I, for example, used to think like journalists make a lot of money, only to learn that beyond the headline and beyond being a celeb, until people seeing you, the story is quite different. I don't know. Have you had any learnings that you like? Maybe if I knew this, maybe I would have gone to become a doctor.
I found when I stepped into it with the challenges, I kind of found it interesting. Why? Because you get to influence decisions at the end of it all, right? And the numbers don't lie. So you cannot massage them to get to your answers. So when I reflect, I would say I'll still choose the same profession because of the impact it has when you're guiding people. And I did come with a mindset thinking that I would get a good paycheck as well. But then you do realize that you're a custodian of so much and you can only get a piece of that. And I thought that the finance is usually boring. You just have to sit in the back end with so many spreadsheets and all that. But I've come across some fun finance professionals that kind of got me out of my shell. Yeah.
By the way, asking, it's you really have to be different human being, when you sit in a place where you know what everybody earns, and you basically know, you're like this mother who serves food, what everybody is, and then you look at yours, and sometimes it doesn't match up to whatever it is. It must be an interesting, in a disinteresting way, place to be. How do you manage that and learning how to make peace with reality?
Well, that's an interesting one. I don't know how I would package that. It's good you used a mother. So for me, integrity is core. Right from when I was a child, it was instilled that you have to have integrity and you just have what is yours and not take on what is someone else. So that we grew with. And I grew up with 4 boys who, no sisters, only boys. They take, and this is mine, right?
From your plate.
Exactly. But then with a mom who is firm, stick to your placed in your lane. So I grew up with that. So when I came into the finance bit and you see all these payrolls, like, okay, that's not mine. This is yours. Negotiate for a better pay. Do better. Bring value so that you're rewarded. So that's how I get to it, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the core skills in your view and qualities of what you think makes a good CFO. And I know I've seen some guidelines in ACCA. I think they're called 7 questions or something like that. But I know that in reality, maybe, I don't know, in your view, having been at this for some time, and in the Ugandan situation especially, what would you say, in your view, would make to be a good CFO or finance profession or finance leader? At least you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, whatever they are, in your view.
Okay. It's interesting you say in Uganda, in the context of Uganda. Yeah. Excuse me. And with the headlines today that have 60 billion stolen from our central bank, I would say integrity is critical because, as you said, you have different kinds of information at your disposal, all the money and all that. I think it's core that you have integrity and cultivate a culture of integrity. And I also think a good CFO has to be resilient because you're going to come against headwinds, okay, that are going to affect the business one way or the other. But you have to have that backbone that carries the entity or the organization through so that you remain relevant in whatever you're doing. It's also good to be forward-thinking, forward-looking. Don't live so much into the future and forget about the present. Have a good balance of that. I think those would be my core, and then being agile. Yeah, changing with the times, adapting easily. I think those would be my core. Yeah.
Okay. I think I've read somewhere or seen somewhere that you didn't go through the normal education process of Uganda, A-level, university, then come back to ACCA. And I think you joined ACCA somewhere in between before getting into university, and here you are. Maybe would you like to share some of your experience with that, how it all started, and when you're sharing experiences with other guys who have gone through the traditional system, do you feel like there was anything that you missed? Would you do it again if you had to? What are your views on that?
I'm going to start with the last one. Would I do it again? Mm-hmm. Yes, and faster. Because I did go to high school, but then I did realize that straight out of senior 4, I could have started with CAT. Because before the A-level results came in, I'd already enrolled for CAT, and I was taking that on. It was a shortcut, but as I told, it was a challenge from the big boys in class. And when I walked to this institution, they told me, yeah, you can enroll now. I was like, okay, why not try it? So I did try it and went for results. I'm like, okay. The results came back. I was like, not so bad, good. And then took that on. So I would do it again. And it was cost saving, of course. I saved quite a bit and not going to college. But then you do realize that when you step into the marketplace, the mindset at that time had not changed. They would ask, okay, what's your first degree? And you didn't have any.
You're like, what degree?
Yes, and you're like, I have FCCA, and like, before that, I'm like, this is it, So you have to do a lot of explaining, but I was fortunate enough to step into an institution that didn't look at that and just said, we need this person because of these values and because of what they've displayed, yeah.
When you're having conversations with other finance people out there, especially the finance leaders, do they say they find any differences between people who have been in the traditional system or the normal system and this other shortcut? Do you feel there's any difference, or it's just in the perceptions?
I would like to think that you need to have a backbone for it, because the traditional setting, I think, does add value in terms of maturity. Because when you step into the professional space, you do bring that maturity into it, right? But if someone is already cut out and they have that, then I would encourage them to do so. Unfortunately, I don't know what it's like to be on the other side. I know what it's like to be on this side of the shortcut. I would definitely encourage someone who has the backbone for it. Yeah.
You are, and I should have actually introduced this much earlier, that you are an award-winning CEO. You've won quite some good recognition in the various editions of the CFO of the Year Awards, which just ended. I know you've also been a winner before, especially including CFO of the Year, and then I know that you've been a judge again in one of the editions, and people looking at us. Out there looking at you, they're basically wondering, what do you have to be made of? What does it take to go through this? Maybe there's somebody out there who is worthy of an award somewhere and they've been sitting on the edge. And so from your experience, what would you love to share with the public out there, in terms of encouraging them to participate, or in terms of what it takes?
Encouraging them to participate is one, because you have to be willing to put yourself out there, to be tested, questioned, and compete with the rest. Being that vulnerable is not something easy. So yes, I do encourage them to put themselves out there. But what it takes to win, I find that many CFOs do a lot of great work, but the storytelling is where the limitation is. And I know CFOs don't talk much. I come and tell you, okay, yes, I did bring in $5 million, and okay. Come on, tell the journey so that they know what challenges you experienced and how you overcame them. And try to innovate. It's not always the same way of doing things. So I think for me, innovation, good storytelling, and being vulnerable. When you do that, you expose yourself, and then you get feedback on which areas you need to work on. And there you can be a better person and, yes, bring your best game to the table.
Okay. Yeah. There's a word that you mentioned, and I keep on hearing it very many times these days, be vulnerable. Does that mean that you go and put yourself out there to be hurt by people and say, guys, look here I am, I'm vulnerable, come get me? What does it mean in the context of leadership to be vulnerable, and how advantageous is it?
So I would say for leadership, we say having a 360, whereby you're not the only one who is only assessing the other individual, but you do get feedback. Okay. For the CFOs who go for this award, coming into that room and having to answer those questions, that's what I mean. Because you'd say, I'll just stay in my comfort zone, do my good work. I don't have to go out there. But that's, for me, that's what I mean by being vulnerable, yes.
And in terms of in your space, of course, the finance profession, but also maybe we could zero it down a little bit to the healthcare space where you are. Well, what would you say are some of the key trends that you see emerging over the last 5 years, and looking a little bit into the future, where do you think we are going in terms of the profession?
There's been a lot of discussion around sustainability. And it's interesting when you go into those sessions, okay, sustainability has been with us. But there's more awareness now, and a lot of focus on climate. And so with my employer, we are focusing on climate and health. So I think sustainability is going to continue to be a subject of discussion, and the framework, ESG, that is used to measure it. Digital transformation, I say that because we are currently going through a digital transformation journey, and it's not easy. I was fortunate to listen to Nita Yu director speak, and what they're putting in place to move the country forward. So I think that's going to be quite key. Then, of course, fintech. There was just an explosion of them in the market. I think they're just going to consolidate that, and I don't know what the banks have in place, or maybe just integrate with them. Then being in Uganda, I think we suffered with the COVID era, with the disruption in supply chain. I think that's just going to be a bit of turbulence in that because we are more consuming. We do not do a lot of manufacturing. So I think those are some of the trends that will affect Uganda, including AI. That's a big word out there. Yeah.
Okay, but speaking of COVID, everybody seems to. This is. I think it's one of those things that happens once in someone's lifetime. I don't think we will probably ever come another time when we will be at close, at least not in this lifetime. And I was at a meeting recently where people say, okay, everybody shortly after COVID was saying we have learned, like never again. And then looks like we're now almost going back to the normal, going places where we had left. So you, as at your personal level and as a finance leader, did you pick some key learnings from the pandemic, and do you feel where those learnings have been ingrained in our institutions, or we are now slowly going back to business as usual?
If it's not COVID, it will be something else. I mean, we had Ebola that affected Uganda. It was not out there. Then Rwanda is struggling with Marburg. Now we have Mpox and all that. So if it's not COVID, something else will come in and interrupt livelihoods. I think we've gone back to the way things were, because even with Mpox news around, you don't see anyone sanitizing or taking the precautions that MOH shares, the guidelines. But one thing as a finance person is that you need to build reserves for those headwinds, for those rough times, so that you can carry your entity across those turbulent times. For example, IDI, we are fortunate that our reserves were somewhere, and so we did not lay off any staff. On the contrary, we had to bring in more staff because we were still working with ministry. So I think it's critical that people have a good balance of reserves, enjoy life, and then, you will be somewhere.
Okay. And as a leader, the finance profession has its own, could say its own dogma, the code of conduct and all that things. But I'm sure there must be one or two things that you are not comfortable about the profession, and maybe if it was in your position to change, you'd be like, okay, I think this one here, no. Are there something that you think make you feel uncomfortable about the profession that, if it were up to you, would change?
That's an interesting one. I've not thought of one, but there are some standards I think that I would quickly have a discussion and say, could we consider changing some of these standards? But I haven't really thought much about what I would change with the profession. Or maybe the stereotype that we have to all dress up in suits and jackets, but nothing much. Yeah.
Okay. And this is again not your typical finance question, or it's a little bit, could sound political. Imagining our dear Uganda here was Uganda Incorporated, and you are the CFO of Uganda as a country, knowing what you know and experience, and are there some things that you think you would love to be changed, either maybe the processes, the way we do things, that if you were the CFO and then maybe you're addressing the board of Uganda, maybe in this case the parliament, you'd say, okay, as a new CFO, I would like to switch up a few things here so to be able to enhance efficiency and service delivery to the people, strictly from a finance perspective, without being political.
Okay, the first one that comes to mind, because is the aggressive tax regime. I would try to encourage the board to tone that down and use some experts to see how we can still collect revenue, but not kill some businesses. And then I would fast track digital transformation because that's where the world is going. We don't want to be left behind. But also engage the community a lot, right? To understand what is impactful for them. I think that is done to some extent, but it does not filter through all the way to the top. then it will be good to have transparent systems. Yeah.
Maybe, why do I think that's where you wanted to start?
I wanted to put that as the last. Hopefully you missed it, so that you can miss it, but clearly you did not.
Okay, interesting. And as a leader, do you have any personal philosophies by which that you go by, which keep you grounded? Because, like as you mentioned, from time to time you get a lot of waves and winds trying to sway you left, right, and center. But maybe you say this is the kind of thing that keeps me grounded.
I did mention that as a Christian, so that really keeps me grounded and balanced. But I choose to lead by example. So if I'm going to tell you to jump, I'm going to make sure I try to jump higher to demonstrate that, yes, you can do that. So it's leading by example and having your skin in the game that really keeps me grounded here.
And in terms of team management, because at the end of the day, you're as good as your people.
Yep.
What kind of tips or lessons have you had in terms of keeping your team together? Of course, I've had a couple of people mention that the competition for good people in the finance space is getting harder and harder. How do you manage to keep your team together and also, of course, there are other things like, like fostering the culture of discipline, integrity. What are some of the tips you could say have been helpful for you? Assuming they have.
Yeah, they are. I would say that people should try to build these teams so that you don't go out to compete in the market all the time to get the best. Build your best from within. I was built from within, and we do build from within as well. It's good to bring people from out, but I think it's good to build teams from within. What I would say about team culture that has helped me with my team is that we are transparent, we are blunt, but careful with how we deliver that. We openly discuss the challenges that we have, and I encourage the teams to be innovative and have problem-solving skills so that I can take time away to focus on the more strategic issues, and the day-to-day is done by the teams. Because at the end of the day, I'm standing on their shoulders, right? Integrity is core, right? And so if you have opportunities where to know that someone has integrity, there has to be an opportunity. So they've seen that okay, there are all these opportunities around her, and she's not picking this, she's not doing that. So they too have to live up to that. And so with little, then you're entrusted with more. And so that's a culture that we cultivate within the teams. Yeah.
One thing that struck me about your CV is you've been for 2 decades. You've been at Infectious Disease Institute. They must be so infectiously nice that I mean, what does it take to be okay? I'm this one person who gets bored easily, and I also think one of my weaknesses, and someone has told me I'm not afraid to walk out. And sometimes that is a good thing, sometimes a bad thing, and like I'm just wondering, what are you made of that has made you stay this long? I know what's your secret?
I get bored easily too. But IDI is quite interesting. We have 6 core programs, but all didn't start as 6. We started as 3, and then started adding on global health security. There was always something new that we were getting into. And I thought that was quite interesting. But then IDI is also about impacting lives. Okay, for me that is core, that is key. It's not about the bottom line, the profit. It's how many lives have you impacted. For example, in one of our programs, we do take care of about 40,000 girls, adolescent girls. We empower them financially, and then allow them go out into the market as entrepreneurs to be self-sustaining. Those do speak to me quite a bit. But I haven't stayed in one position. I joined as an accounts assistant and worked my way to the top. So I think it's environment. It's a very conducive working environment in my view. And it brings a different challenge every time. There's no dull moment at IDI. If it's not a disease outbreak, then maybe it's a discovery that the scientists have and something to celebrate about.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually read somewhere where they say that as an organization, having a strong corporate purpose that is well communicated to stakeholders, including employees, can actually contribute to, amongst others, having employees stay longer because they feel like they are waking up to change the world every day, and that kind of keeps them going longer. Now, in addition to that, and borrowing from your own example, in terms of what has made you stay longer at IDI, how do you advise other people out there, and including some other non-finance professionals like boyfriend and girlfriend? What are some of the tips that can help keep people longer in places, and therefore, of course, be able to create more impact and create more stability and resilience?
Cultivate a culture of innovation. Even within the small space that you have, you can innovate and make your job fun. Now, with the boyfriend-girlfriend bit, I have no clue. But I think being honest and commitment, know what you're out there for. For example, I love what IDEA is set out to do. Okay, so their vision resonates with what I stand for. The values do resonate with my values: integrity, accountability, teamwork, excellence. I think those, if you have those clearly set out, then I think people can stay. But it's also good to try out new things. As I mentioned earlier, IDI, there's always something new happening. So it's as if you're in a new organization every now and then because of the new things that keep cropping up.
And looking at I'm sure in the 20 years you must have worked with a lot of people who have come in and gone and everything. When you're having conversations with them, some of them your colleagues, your ex-IDI colleagues, and some of them you went to school with them, what are some of the things that come across in terms of what makes people leave organizations? I know I have heard that people don't leave organizations; they leave bad bosses. But some of those things are like cliche. But from your experience, why do you think people leave certain organizations, and why people stay at other organizations longer?
Pay is the constant. Someone gets offered additional resources, and they move. At least that I have come across quite a bit. But bad bosses as well. You say it's cliche. Yeah, some people cannot stand such bosses and so have to go on. But some others want to try new industries. You just find, okay, I've been in this NGO thing. What does the private sector have? Or what does an international organization have to offer? And some people prefer exposure. They want to go and experience different things, and so they move on. Yeah.
And speaking of different industries, of course, I don't know if you've been in any other industry apart from the not-for-profits, but do you, and again maybe from the conversations, from the reading you've done, do you feel like being in finance in the non-profit world?
We have the same baseline, but I think my colleagues in the private sector are under a lot of regulation. For example, the bankers, you have Bank of Uganda to contend with, you have URA. So I think there's a lot of pressure on them from a regulatory point of view. And then also the pressure to pay dividends because you're out to make profits. We are not out to make profits. We are out to impact lives, communities. So I think it's in terms of pressure that there's a difference, but we have the same education. We have balance sheets or statements of comprehensive income, the same as they do. Yeah.
But then we didn't get to discuss about IDI. Briefly, what does IDI do? Maybe then this will help people consuming this interview to put into perspective this conversation having known what IDI does?
So IDI, what would say Infectious Diseases Institute, is a not-for-profit that is wholly owned by Makere. But that's a testimony that a public university can run a successful entity. And
it's a Makere University owned?
Yes.
Okay.
Owned by your Makere University, 100%.
Okay.
So we have 6 core programs. The youngest of those core programs is Global Health Security. We've just been talking about COVID, Ebola. That's a program that works closely with ministry to ensure that infections are contained and totally eradicated. And then we have the training program. We do train a lot of health workers across the country, but our footprint is all over Africa in terms of training. Then we have the research program that focuses on clinical trials, discovering new grounds in health. And then we have prevention, care, and treatment, which is a center of excellence that takes care of HIV-positive individuals. We call them friends, and we do this for free with resources from different funders, including CDC. So we take care of them. And then the last one is a CAP accredited laboratory that provides very high quality lab tests across different menus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And I do understand that, I mean, you most of your services are they're non-commercial. How do you raise money to sustain yourselves?
Of late, we are stepping into the commercial bit a bit, but we haven't. We're trying to step into that space. It's not easy. But our funding is mostly from governments. For example, the U.S. government does give us quite a bit of resources to implement our objectives. They are donors. We write out grants. They're competitive. We compete for these grants. Our success rate is about maybe 20% now of every 100 that you send out there. So that's where we get the resources to do what we do. Stepping into the private or the for-profit space is something we are looking forward to. We are trying that, but it's not easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And actually, the reason why I asked that is that I needed to find out, because I'm sure one of the key roles and your core responsibilities as finance, you kind of have an element of fundraising, being able to work with the rest of the teams to raise the necessary resources. Any useful tips you'd love to give to fellow CFOs in the not-for-profit space, especially in the era of post-COVID?
So we are fortunate to have a dedicated team that just does business development. And so the pieces that we contribute in there is, one, maintaining a robust system, efficiency, and then you write that into the proposal. Funders would like to see, if we gave you, say, $1 million, you have the systems and the processes to manage that. So for the CFOs out there, strengthen your internal controls, have a good write-up of the systems and processes that you have, because that is key when a funder is awarding grants. And then share the good work that you do. Not only the programs, but even the finance bit of it, write about it. Yeah.
And maybe lastly, are there any parting shots, anything that you feel it is important that we should have put across, or you'd like to put across that maybe we missed out in these conversations?
Now, I'd encourage CFOs, because my understanding is that this is for CFOs, right, and aspiring. Let them walk in their own shoes. Very often you hear people say, oh, these are very big shoes for me to fill. Why try to fill other people's shoes? Just walk in your shoes, be authentic. But learn from the experiences so that you can make your mark. You can have a strong legacy that you leave.
So you've heard it, guys. Bring your own shoes, walk in them and fit in them and look good in your own shoes. Don't try to wear other people's shoes. So on that note, I would like to bring this edition to a close. And thank you. It's been a pleasure speaking to you and learning from you a few bits and pieces here. And I hope to host you here very soon. And so once again, let me thank ACCA Uganda, Deloitte Uganda, for helping us put together this show where we have nice conversations about people who are previously hiding behind the desks. Now we bring them out one by one, and continue following us on our different channels on YouTube, on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And do visit the CEO magazine website, ceo.co.ug, for the latest business news in Uganda. Thank you very much. See you next time.
CFO Playbook by CEO East Africa Magazine in association with FCCA Uganda and Deloitte.